Greetings! This is the Instrument Sidekick video for the percussion. Page 14, it's time to learn to read music! Page 14, it's time to learn to read music. Alright, you've been learning all sorts of things about how to play the snare drum and how to play the bells. Now it's time to start learning how to read that stuff as it's actually going to be written for you in music, okay? This page is very important because this is setting the basic terms that you need to not only know but memorize. Not just generally know. I expect you to really memorize this page. So you'll see there's a lot of lines and questions. You're going to want to grab a pencil because we are going to have you writing this stuff so you can review it and work on memorizing everything you need to on this page. All right, so let's start right at the top. Right with this baby right here. You should have talked about this in general music classes. In fact, I'm 100% sure you did. Whether you remember what that's called or not, I don't know. But that right there, what we're going to write in this line, is called a treble clef. Treble clef. So you grab a pencil and right in that line, you're going to write T-R-E-B-L-E for treble. And clef is C-L-E-F. Treble clef. Treble clef. And what's important about that treble clef is it changes what the information that this thing is telling us. So let's talk about what this thing is before we jump over there, okay? What is this thing? Once again, I'm 100% sure what this is called has been talked about in your general music classes, all right? What is that? That is a staff. Staff. So right here on that line right there, you're going to write S-T-A-F-F. Staff. So this is a staff. Now when the treble clef is written on that staff, all right, that was a very badly drawn treble clef. Okay, well, it's going to be, whenever that's in front of the clef, or the staff, it changes that staff to mean all the different letters that are on your bells, okay? Each line and space then becomes a different letter name for your bells, okay? So you know how to play your scale, for instance. Every note of that scale, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, all that. Each line and space is a different note from that scale telling you what to play on the bells. So right next to this treble clef, you're going to write a slash and you're going to write the word bells. Slash bells. So that treble clef for you means you got to be playing the bells. And I will be asking that all through the year. You know, treble clef. Oh, there's a treble clef. What are you supposed to play? The bells. Okay. Technically, it'll work for any of the mallet instruments. So xylophone and marimba and chimes. There's a whole bunch of other ones, but you're only playing the bells this year. So bells for you. All right. Now this guy is also on a staff, but that is definitely not the same clef as the treble clef. This clef has a different name and purpose. Okay. So you've probably not talked about this in your general music classes. This one is named a neutral clef. A neutral clef. So we're going to write that right here on this line. N-E-U-T-R-A-L. Neutral. And then clef is C-L-E-F. N-E-U-T-R-A-L. And clef is C-L-E-F. Don't make fun of my handwriting. Yeah, I know it's awful. All right. Neutral clef. Neutral clef. Now what the neutral clef is telling us is different. The treble clef tells us the different means the staff is a bunch of different letter names for the different letters you hit on the bells, what we call pitches. And the neutral clef, every line and space is a different instrument in what we call battery percussion. So right next to that, right underneath where we wrote neutral clef, you're going to write battery. B-A-T-T-E-R-Y. And by this, I don't mean battery like the battery you put in things like that's in your phone to keep it powered up, okay? Battery, batting things, if you remember in baseball, you have a bat. It's called a bat because you're literally batting the ball, okay? You bat it. means you hit things, okay? So battery percussion means all the percussion that you just hit. You hit it, and that's the sound it makes. Like the snare drum, like the bass drum, okay? Like the triangle. Every instrument in the percussion that isn't the same as your keyboard instruments, they're called battery percussion because you simply, there isn't a different pitch for, like your bells has a different pitch for every line and space. So in the battery percussion, we have a neutral clef, and every line and space is a different instrument, okay? And we'll talk about what those different instruments are. For instance, the lowest space is a bass clef, and the third space up is a snare drum, okay? You can have the music for all sorts of different percussion instruments on the same staff using the neutral clef. And it can be written all right next to each other so you can see what the bass clef is doing while you're playing the snare drum part. And if you're the snare drum, you just keep an eye on all the music that's just on that third space up, and you kind of ignore all the rest of it, all right? And boy, you can get a whole lot written on just one neutral clef staff. So it changes what this staff means. So the staff with the treble clef means different letters for the bells, and the staff with the neutral clef means different instruments for every line and space. All right, and we'll talk more about that coming up. But for now, let's finish up writing what we need to for this page. For instance, what is a beat? Boy, is a beat important if we are a drummer. we keep the beat. So that's one of the things we do. All right, so you need to know what a beat is. I mean, you know how to clap it, you know how to feel it, and tap. You stomp your foot to it, and you can dance to it. But what is it? Well, the answer is A, steady pulse. Steady, S-T-E-A-D-Y, and pulse, P-U-L-S-E. A steady pulse. Okay? Steady being the key word here. Steady pulse. Okay? So the answer can't be, when I say what is a beat, you can't just say it's a note, okay? Notes have beats, okay? They really do. But there's more to, other things have beats besides notes. So your heart has a beat. Clocks have a beat, okay? There's more to a beat than just music, okay? So steady pulse is the important thing. And steady is the important word. Music's more like your heart in that it can be fast and it can be slow, but it's got to be steady. It can't be both. You can't be like fast, slow, fast, slow, fast. Okay, you can't do that, all right? It's got to be a steady pulse, all right? So you got to keep it nice and steady. Now you have to keep track of beats for the entire rest of the time that you're playing percussion. You have to keep track. And there's a reason why it's going to come up in the next question. But how do we keep track? Let's first talk about that. We've already been doing it on the bell rolls page, all right, where you had to keep track by counting to 4, okay? Now, sometimes that number will be different. So we're just going to say counting out loud, okay? C-O-U-N-T-I-N-G, out, O-U-T, loud, L-O-U-D. Counting out loud. Counting out loud. That's how we're going to keep track. We're literally going to count out loud. And in lessons, you're going to count literally out loud. And in performances, in band rehearsals, you'll count quietly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So you actually have to count out loud. Now, up till now, we've been counting to 4 because of this thing. This thing right here will be in the front of most of our bits of music with, they'll have the staff going across. You'll have a clef in front, either a treble clef or a neutral clef, meaning either bells or battery, all right? And right next to that, and I'll write it next to my badly drawn treble clef. Normally, I'm better at drawing it. Okay? Right next to that will be these two numbers here. And these numbers will eventually change, but we're going to get used to this one. Okay? What this is called is a time signature. This line's where you're going to write time. The next line's where you write signature. Time is T-I-M-E, and signature is S-I-G-N-A-T-U-R-E. Time signature. Okay? Time signature. All right? So that's going to be in the front of all your music. And what that number means, in this case the number 4, what that number is helping us keep track of something. You see, all across the page, okay, all across the page will be the staff. Staff goes across. In the front will be the clef and the time signature, okay? Then all the way across the page will be these vertical lines called bar lines, dividing out what we call measures, okay? Because it's measuring out the page, okay? Each line's measuring out, kind of like the lines on a ruler is measuring out our inches or whatever, okay? It's measuring out across the page. Each measure has a count number of the time signature. So if the time signature is 4-4, then we're going to be counting to 4 in every one of those measures. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to count to 4 in each of these measures out loud in a steady pace. You can't go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. No, you can't be steady. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You actually have to count out loud to 4 in each of the measures. All right? So what does it mean? It's telling us how many beats, because that's what we're counting is the beats. So beats, B-E-A-T-S, beats per, P-E-R, measure, M-E-A-S-U-R-E. Beats per measure. Beats per measure. So that time signature is important because that's telling us the number to count per measure. Now, for a long time, you're going to wonder why we even bother because we're going to be counting to 4 all the time. But eventually those numbers change and it changes how we count the beats per measure, okay? So for right now, it's just going to stay this one because this is the most common of the time signatures. Like you're going to be doing this a lot at first because we want you used to it. Because if you even go to the radio and you listen to the radio, good luck trying to find a piece of music that isn't counting to 4 beats per measure, okay? Like, you just listen and you start to realize, wow, there's a pattern here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll be able to find that you can just count to 4. If you follow the beat, you get a sense of where the beat is. You'll be able to count in patterns of 4 for all of the music you listen to on the radio. Okay, it's very rare that it's anything different. And if it is, it's usually 3-4, which we'll talk about later. But 4-4 is the main time signature that you get used to. So, all this info, I expect it written in your book, and I want you to have all this memorized. I'm going to literally ask all this information every lesson for the entire rest of the year. All of it in the same questions in the same order every single lesson. So you might as well just memorize it and get used to it so we can get through that in our lessons nice and fast, all right? So have it written down so you don't have to watch this video again, all right? And review this page over well enough that you've got it memorized. Every lesson I'm going to share my screen, a blank version of this page, all right? And from there, I'll point with a mouse and I'll point and say, what's this? And I expect you to say, treble clef. What does it mean you're playing? The bells. What is this? Neutral clef. What does it mean you're playing? Battery percussion. What is this? That's a staff. What does it mean? Steady pulse. How do you keep track? Counting out loud. What's this? Time signature. What does it mean? Beats per measure. I want it ready to go, ready to answer those every single lesson for the rest of the year because it's that important to remember these terms. Because all of that information is going to be useful to you even past this year. They won't ask you every lesson like next year, but that information will be necessary every lesson, every band rehearsal for the entire rest of your life till you're as old as I am. All right? Very, very important information. So review this page, have it written down, review it, memorize it, keep practicing everything else you need to. Good luck, and may the force be with you.